This demo will show how you can use ByteGenie to consolidate your data from various sources and build data applications directly from your source data without any manual programming or prompting. In ByteGenie, you can ingest data via manual uploads. You can create a unique dataset ID and upload all the relevant files for that dataset. The upload module will show you all the existing datasets you have, so you could upload a new version of the same datasets or upload a completely new dataset with a new ID. For example, you could upload files related to your portfolio and create a portfolio dataset. You could upload files related to customer information and create a customer dataset. In addition to manual uploads, you can also ingest data from your existing databases and enterprises using data connectors. Once you choose a data source, you will see the relevant parameters to connect to that data source, verify the connection, and ingest sample data. For example, you can ingest data from Snowflake using warehouse connections. You can also ingest data from industry-specific enterprise systems, such as Salesforce Financial Services Cloud. You can also combine manually uploaded data with data ingested from connections to databases and enterprise systems in Dataset Builder functionality. This allows synthesizing existing data into a suitable combination for a specific use case without creating duplicate copies of the same data. Once you have a suitable dataset for a use case, you can perform any ad hoc analysis on this dataset through data chat functionality. This functionality allows you to select a dataset and ask any questions on it in natural language. For example, I can select a portfolio dataset, view the contents of the files in this dataset to make sure I am using the right data. Now I can ask it to perform any analysis on this data. For example, to calculate total portfolio value by industry, highlighting the top 3 industries. Once the analysis is complete, you will see the output in the Chats module. You can chat with multiple datasets in the same dashboard. For example, I can now select bank operations data, review the files, and ask it to find out which branches have the highest complaints rate. For more repeatable workflows, where you may want to derive certain outcomes from your dataset on an ongoing basis, you can head to Model Creation functionality in Model Management. Model creation allows you to learn a custom symbolic model that takes a selected dataset as input and produces a desired output. Let's start by creating a forecasting model for customer behavior. We will select the Financial Customer Behavior dataset. This dataset contains information about customer transactions, campaigns that were offered to the customer profile, and so on. And based on these details, we want to be able to predict the next action the customer will perform and predict suitable marketing recommendations for the customer. We have the actual next actions performed by the customer and how well different recommendations performed for each customer. So I select the relevant input and output files in the Learning Configuration module on the dashboard and click Start Model Learning. This will trigger model learning in the background, and I can move on to creating other models. Next, let's create a model for building an ETL pipeline. For this, we will use bank operations data, which contains information about branch financials, credit and debit card spending, and so on. In the Learning Configuration module, we can specify the fields we want to derive in the output. For each field, we can simply specify the name and a description, and whether or not this is required or optional. Once we have created the schema, we can click Start Model Learning, and it will trigger learning of an ETL model in the background. Next, we can move on to creating a model for logic discovery. For this, we will use the Portfolio dataset. This dataset contains information about portfolio holdings, stock prices, and company information. The aim of this model is to learn to calculate total portfolio value based on the input files. In the Learning Configuration module, we can select the relevant inputs and desired output. When the Start Model Learning button is clicked, the model learning will start in the background. Once a model learning is complete, the model will be available as an executable function for generating new outputs based on relevant inputs. These modes can be accessed via Model Execution Dashboard. Inside the Model Execution Dashboard, when you select a dataset, it will show all the models linked to that dataset, meaning models that can take some of the files from that dataset as an input to derive some outputs. Let's first select the bank operations data, for which we learned an ETL model. When I select this dataset, I see the existing model in the Model Selection module. After selecting the model, I can click Execute Model, and this will create a dialog to select the inputs for the model. Once the inputs are selected, clicking Model Execution will start the model execution. Model execution will generate an output from the model, which we can save as a new file in our dataset so that we can use this output later. In addition, the model execution will generate a detailed computation graph showing all the various steps involved in the model in mathematical and natural language form. This ensures that the model computations are fully transparent and human understandable. If I right-click on any of the computations in the model, I can see additional details of the model, as well as specific inputs and outputs of each and every step. In addition to reviewing the actual model computations, I can also generate a report summarizing the model. The report is interactive, and I can regenerate or update the report through natural language instructions. For example, I can ask for a non-technical description of each equation to be included in the report, and it will be added in real time. Now we can move to the forecasting model that we generated for financial customer behavior prediction. Similar to before, when we select the relevant dataset, the available model will show up. After selecting the relevant input files for the model, we can execute the model and generate an output. Since we have a target output for this model, we can validate the model-generated output against this output by clicking on Validate Output and see how well the model was able to forecast customer behavior. The output validation module will show values that were correctly predicted in green color and values that were not accurately predicted in red color. As we can see, the forecasting model was able to accurately predict a large proportion of the values related to customer behavior. Finally, we can review the portfolio calculation model. As before, once we select the portfolio dataset, we will see the available models. And in this case, we have two different models linked to the same dataset. We can select one of them and execute on our dataset. When we validate this model against the expected output, we see that the generated model matches all the values perfectly. In this case, the outputs can be logically deduced from the inputs, so the model has been able to learn the exact logic to generate the exact output. Now we can see how we can use these model-generated outputs as input for further analysis. We can go back to the Data Chat module and select one of the model output files that we saved previously for banking operations data. I can now select this file and ask the agent to analyze customer spending based on customer spending and card type and obtain an output. In summary, this data modeling functionality allows you to build enterprise-grade data models and applications directly from the raw data, which can be reused to automate repeatable tasks, as well as ad hoc custom analyses. And in the future, we will allow you to build custom user interfaces for each model, enabling users to build full-fledged data applications targeted to their needs, without any manual effort needed for development, deployment, or data preparation.